Good afternoon. I'm Larry Trout, Chair of this year's Nominating Committee. Welcome to the 2021 Meet the Candidates Forum being conducted by the Stonebridge Board's Nominating Committee. This Meet the Candidates Forum has traditionally been held in the 4 to 5 p.m. time slot to allow members to take advantage of happy hour to continue the post-forum discussion around the Grill Room Bar. For reasons we are all aware of, this year we'll need to conduct our post-forum discussions at home. Let's all hope for a return to normalcy during including the Meet the Candidate Forum next year. As I'm sure you're aware, today's Meet the Candidate Forum is an important element of the process of filling the seats being vacated by the 3 current board members who will complete their 3-year term at the annual member meeting on February 24th. This year's nominating committee consists of myself, Patty Carroll, Mary DeLisi, Ellen Hannon, Bob Henry, and Tony Maglione. The work of the nominating committee is among the most important of our 14 committees. The committee is charged with recruiting and encouraging members to volunteer as potential candidates for these 3 positions and conducting the election process to fill those seats. I'd like to thank our outstanding committee for their excellent work this year. This year, the committee received notices of intent to seek election from 5 candidates. After establishing each candidate's qualifications, the committee reviewed their relevant background, responses to 5 questions posed by the committee, and interviewed each candidate. As a result, the nominating committee unanimously recommends these 5 candidates for the 3 positions being vacated. These candidates are, in alphabetical order, Max Borden from Middleburg, Betsy Gallo from Braeburn, Charlie Ganjami from Manchester, Dan Graziano from Ashton Oaks, and Kathy Taylor from Thornbrook. We'll begin today by asking each candidate, again in alphabetical order, to take no more than 5 minutes to introduce themselves, summarize their relevant background, and reasons for seeking an open board position. Once the introductions are complete, I will ask each candidate to respond to one of 5 questions that were given to them by the nominating committee last week. We'll repeat this cycle a total of 3 times, with each candidate responding to a unique question each time. Ben, could you switch to the next slide? Once the candidates have answered these questions, we will turn to questions from the members. As you know, all members are on mute, but you are most certainly welcome to ask a question of the candidate. This slide shows you how to use the question function in the GoToWebinar control panel to ask a question. You type your question where it's indicated by the arrow and click send. You may ask a question anytime during the forum. We'll save the questions and ask them after the candidates have answered the committee's questions. You may direct questions to an individual candidate or to all 5 candidates. Okay, back Ben, thank you. All right, so let's begin with the questions. Let's begin with their introductions. Start with Max Borden. Max, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Larry. Max Borden from Middleburg. Married to Janie Borden, 48 years. If Janie were doing this, she would be likely to break out in song. I will assure you that's not going to happen with me. We are from northern Indiana, little town of Rochester, Indiana, live on Lake Manitou in Rochester. We have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and we have been in Stonebridge since 2005. We bought a place in Carrington. In 2009, we migrated over to Middleburg. Since being in Stonebridge, I've served on some committees. I've originally, I think my first committee was ARC, then the Strategic Planning Committee. Most recently served with Betsy on the Communications and IT Committee. Currently, I'm on the Middleburg board. I've been on the board at Middleburg for 5 years. I've been president there the last 2 years. Much of my board experience has actually been up north in Indiana. Served many years, 16 years on our local school board. I was president of that board for 6 years. Did lots of church work, served on church boards, served on the Grissom Air Force Base Realignment Authority. Most recently in our lake community, there's 500 homes on our lake, and that homeowners association, I served on that board for 10 years. Served the last 7 of those 10 as president. So I guess that's about all I have to offer for myself. The reason I'm running, around Thanksgiving time, I got a call from the nominating committee suggesting there were going to be 3 open seats and they needed some good candidates. I knew at that time that Stonebridge has to have good board members. Thought maybe it was my time in the barrel. I should step up. I did step up. I did not know at the time who else was running, but I'm thrilled that we have a slate of such good candidates. So if you're watching this from TV land and you can't make a decision, you pick any of the any 3 of these people, and Stonebridge will be just fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Max. Betsy, over to you.
Hi, I'm Betsy Gallo. I live in Brayburn. I'm married to Bert Gallo for a few years now. And let's see, he's president of Brayburn. So we have a lot of stuff going on in this house with webinars and all that kind of stuff lately. The committees I've served on were the nominating committee, the communications committee. I was involved in the book club as treasurer for, I don't know, it seemed like 10 years. Maybe it was only about 7 or 8. A long time. And chair of the House Committee, and that has been a challenge this past year because of what's going on with COVID. And the committee has continued to be very involved, meeting monthly or whenever the meetings were scheduled. So in spite of everything that's going on, active committee year. Besides being involved here, I've had a lot of board work that I've been involved with in my past life, which at this point really doesn't matter a whole lot. I think that what I've been doing now and the fact that I've been on the board for the past 3 years, the reason why I signed up again is just because I realized about 2 months ago that we were at a really important juncture, and to have some continuity might be helpful. And I thought that I could contribute to getting us to where we need to go in the next 3 years, which is a pretty big jump for this community, but an important one in order to keep us updated and relevant, and a country club that people want to join, new members want to come to. So that is my reason for signing up again. And I will agree with everything Max said. Any one of the 5 candidates that are here would be a great representative for this community. So no matter what, you will be in good hands.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Charlie Ganjami. Charlie, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Charlie Ganjami. I have give you a little background on me and family. I've been married to Susan for 46 years. We have 4 children, 3 grandchildren so far, and that's an important so far. We have been Stonebridge owners for the last 21 years. We lived in or had a condo in Manchester, in Brayburn, for 14 of those years, and then in 2012 we pulled the trigger and came full-time to Stonebridge, and we've been in Manchester ever since. In terms of career background, I was a senior resident vice president at Merrill Lynch, where I ran a complex of 3 offices that had about 125 people reporting to me, and I was responsible for about $4.5 billion in client assets. I've been, of course, a member of the board for the last 3 years, but before that, I served on the Brayburn Board of Directors for 5 years, 3 of those as secretary, and then when we moved to Manchester in 2013, a year later, I became chairman of the Manchester Committee and did that for 3 years until I decided to run for the Stonebridge board. During that time as Manchester chairman, we experienced Hurricane Irma, and I was pretty active in helping people through that crisis. In Stonebridge, I've been on the communications committee in the past. It's kind of distant past. This term on the board, I've been co-chair of community standards for 2 years, chair of the grievance committee for this past year, board secretary this year. I'm chairman of the Thomas Brooks Award for 2 years, chair of grounds, facilities, and security for 3 years, just finishing. That's where I had my greatest impact, I think, is facilities, grounds, and security. We had some major projects over the past 3 years that we saw through with Tim Jones. Carpet replacement that took place 2 years ago. We replaced the pool furniture, which was about 3 years early, but the pool furniture just wasn't holding up, and so we took that on. After Hurricane Irma, we did extensive landscaping to the tune of about $500,000, and we worked with Tim and Mark Metzger to get that accomplished. We did some major security enhancements during that time that possibly you're not all aware of, but I think that'll become more evident in coming months. And most recently, we completed the renovation of the 2 entrances, which was kind of long overdue. And then coming up is the chair replacement in the dining room and grill room. We've ordered chairs. We expect them delivered in mid-March. So hopefully that'll be a big improvement from what people have been complaining about for a number of years. I strongly believe that decisions facing Stonebridge over the next year or two are going to be really critical for the future of Stonebridge. We're an aging community, and we're experiencing considerable market risk and pressure from competition of new communities that are being built, mostly to the east of us, with the amenities that home buyers are seeking, especially younger home buyers that we want to attract. We know what those things are that they want, and we need to invest in the capital improvements that will keep our home prices competitive. The key to doing this successfully will be to balance those needs against the ability of members to pay for them. And that's kind of a balancing act that comes when you're doing big things. I believe that member input is going to be critical at this juncture to move forward. We obviously can't do this without substantial member support, and communication in both directions, both to them and from them, is the key to making this a success. I also think that my experience with the facilities replacement and upgrades will serve me well as we make these decisions. Every board member in Stonebridge needs to be committed to serving all Stonebridge members. They need to approach this position without any agenda. That means making every decision with only the good of Stonebridge and its members in mind. This has not always been the case in the past, but I believe members deserve unbiased leadership. My reason for running is similar to what Betsy said, is I think that continuity may be helpful as we move ahead and face these challenges. The direction of Stonebridge over the next maybe 10, 20 years is in the balance. And I thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Dan Graziano. Dan, over to you.
I'm Dan Graziano, married to Dot Graziano for 49 years, 50 come June. We have 3 sons, 8 grandchildren, 4 of each gender, and we live in Ashton Oaks. We bought in Ashton Oaks in 1997, closed in January of 98. We've been living here almost year-round for about 8 years. We usually go up to New Jersey, up north for 3 months in the summer, unless, of course, there's a pandemic. which I'd really just as soon not repeat going forward. I'm running for the board, and if people ask me, they say, why are you running for the board again? And my answer is a simple one that's already been expressed. The next 3 years, I think, are going to determine the future of Stonebridge for the next 10 to 20 years. And I would like to have a significant role in the decision-making process that will affect that outcome. In my first term on the board, I was proud to work with a high-functioning board that moved from an outdated board-centric management model to a professional management system. That change served us especially well through those years, and especially in meeting the tremendous challenge of Hurricane Irma. When I left the board, I believe that our members felt informed and felt well represented. My goal, if I'm elected this time, will be to ensure that the board acts with the needs, wants, and financial capacity of all of our members kept centrally in mind throughout the process. Transparency, dialogue, and member involvement will be valued in all decisions that I make as a board member. You may not always agree with my decisions, but I hope you will feel that I listened to you and that I heard you. More importantly, that I heard you. I would be very grateful for your support so that I can serve the Stonebridge community once again. I do want to echo the sentiments of Max Borden. I would be proud to serve with any of these board members. This is an excellent slate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Kathy Taylor. Kathy?
Thanks, Larry. My name is Kathy Taylor. My husband, John, and I, who have been married for 51 years, have been members of Stonebridge since 1998. And in 2005, we bought our current home on Ponside, where we have been year-round members since then. We have fully participated in the Stonebridge life during these 20 years and have truly made this our home. Living here full-time has given me the opportunity to see and fully understand the workings of our club, not only during the busy season, but as well during the slower pace of life in summer. And both of these times presenting their own set of challenges. As a board member, I believe it's imperative that we continue to face the challenges and come up with solutions that will take us into a prosperous and well thought out future. Being fully involved year-round keeps me in touch and aware of club operations and the wants and needs of all of our residents. As far as my work background, in addition to being a wife and mother of 3, I worked at A.G. Edwards & Sons, a national financial services and brokerage firm based in St. Louis for 20 plus years. As a vice president of the firm, I was a NASDAQ stock trader responsible for making a market in 25 to 30 securities, using from $1 to $2 million of the firm's capital to create positions that benefited both our retail customers and supported the interest of our institutional clients. In addition, for 8 of those years, I served as the assistant manager of the department and supervised 25 employees when called upon. My retired life, which has been a lot more fun, has allowed me to not only participate in the committee structure here at Stonebridge, but also I served as a volunteer at the neighborhood health clinic in Naples for the past 5 years until COVID didn't allow for volunteers. And previous to that, John and I worked at the St. Vincent de Paul Society thrift shop. I've also spearheaded an annual fundraising drive here at Stonebridge that has raised more than $18,000 over the past 8 years for the Guadalupe Early Childhood Development Center in Immokalee. Serving on committees at Stonebridge is certainly a way of giving back. And my prior experience through the committee structure has given me the opportunity to hear and learn from other members what their thoughts and concerns are. Being a conduit for these ideas is what a board member must be primarily focused on. My initial committee experience led to my 3-year term on the board of directors from 2008 to 2011. I've served on CSC for 8 years, 3 years as the chairman. I was the chair of the Tennis and Fitness Committee for 2 years, member of the golf committee for 2 years during the time of our last major golf course renovation, served on the green committee for 3 years when it was a separate entity, and served on the grievance committee for 2 years. Most recently, I've been on the SPC, Strategic Planning Committee. Yeah, those words sometimes are hard to come out. I fully understand the organizational makeup, the financial structure, and the legal ramifications which govern our HOA. And most importantly, I fully support our vision and mission statement to guide each decision made by board members. The next 3 years are very important for our community. To remain stagnant in an ever-changing retirement and recreational environment would be a mistake. Finding the right mix of upgrades and amenities while being ever conscious of the cost will be the task at hand. And like the others have said, input from our members will be the primary reason that we move forward. Each group has wants and needs. Our older members, our newer members, we must be cognizant of what the community is telling us. I am convinced that the facilities improvement project, including the golf course renovation, no matter what the final plan looks like, must be adopted, not only for the benefit of our current members, but to keep Stonebridge competitive in this market and for us to be able to attract new members. I like to think that we should follow the advice of a club consultant who was asked, if we upgrade our facilities, will our property values increase? And he said, not necessarily. Then he was asked, if we do not upgrade our facilities, will our property values decrease? And he replied, absolutely. We must keep this in mind. We must keep this in mind that we need to move forward, and we need to move forward as a united body. As a member of the board, I would diligently work to represent all members of our community, seeking a plan that will be embraced and supported by the majority. I believe that my background, experience, and probably most of all, my love for Stonebridge will serve the community well. I am fully aware of the amount of time and effort that a member of the board must commit to, and I am willing to make that commitment for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to remind the members that if you have a question for one or all of the candidates, just type in that, there you go. Thank you, Ben. Type in your question, click send. We're going to hold all those questions until the end, and then we'll ask them all at once. Great, thank you, Ben. All right, so let's getting down to the start with the committee questions. The first question is for Max. Question 1, what do you consider to be the 1 or 2 most important future needs of Stonebridge, and why?
Thanks, Larry. I think number 1, obviously, is the golf course. We're a bundled golf community. All of us bought here because of the golf. Some people may buy here because their friends are here, but in a bundled community, our life is kind of centered around the golf course, and maintaining the golf course, improving the golf course is, I think, our number 1 priority. Our second priority, and I don't have the answers for this one, but we need more space. We need space for the bistro. We need space for our fitness center. We could always use more parking. All the newer communities are adding the bocce balls and the pickle balls and the other amenities, that the resort pools, and we're short on space. And somewhere along the line, maybe we'll think outside the box and come up with ways to solve that problem. But I do believe those are 2 issues we've got to solve. And we're well on our way to solving the golf course issue. I think we're going to upgrade it, make it look like a top-notch, and it should be the nicest bundled golf course in Naples when we get done. And the space thing, we'll continue to work around that. But if anybody's got ideas, spaces will always be a problem for us.
Okay, thank you, Max. Next question goes to Betsy, and Betsy, I'm going to ask you question number 5. Your relevant experience includes having served on the Stonebridge Board of Directors. If elected to serve again on the board, what would you do differently?
Sorry. Thank you. I don't know who's in charge of the muting here. So I think I started to say I don't think I would do anything differently. I would continue doing what I have been doing. I think I've been a pretty effective board member in terms of steering the Hotwire project through. That was a 2-year project that the Communications and IT Committee was charged with. We had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of in-depth conversations with 3 different companies. And we really had to pursue this to get to a vote with the committee to get a consensus, which we did. And the final result is now that we are now almost 100% Hotwire community. As people return, they're changing over from Comcast to Hotwire. Big thing that I think it's very important for any board member to do is to be able to listen to what people have to say. And I think, you know, I know a good number of people in the community, and I feel like I'm often approached with questions and comments and negative things, and as well as positive things. And it's how you respond to that and how you make these members feel like they're being listened to and that what they say is important. That's a function of being a board member. And I think going forward, I would just continue doing what I have been doing.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Charlie, the next question goes to you, and it's question number 2. What do you see as the biggest risk to Stonebridge as an HOA or as a country club, and how should the risk be mitigated?
You know, Larry, as I thought about that question, what kept coming back to me is communications. We absolutely need to solicit as much member input as we can. And I would say that our biggest risk is to fail to do that. If we're never going to please everyone with a project like we're facing. We know that, especially in the national climate that exists today. But we owe it to the membership to find as broad a consensus as we can with regard to these capital improvements that are under consideration. You know, without member support, we can't get the job done. So, you know, this is a pivotal time for Stonebridge, and the decisions, as I've said, and a couple others have said, that we make over the next 1 to 2 years are going to shape the direction of Stonebridge for a long time. And without clear communication with members going in both directions, we don't stand a chance of making that happen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlie. Next question goes to Dan, question number 3. What have you heard from Stonebridge residents as their biggest concern about the community, and how would you address their concern?
Members have indicated to me that they are sorely missing the socialization and camaraderie that were the hallmark of Stonebridge before the pandemic. Tim and our staff have done a great job in keeping us safe, but the sooner we can get back to gathering around the Grill Room bar on Friday nights and dancing to live entertainment at the bistro, the better off we're going to be. More so than many communities, ours was characterized by an easy familiarity and friendly encounters. That distinguished us, and we need to do everything we can to safely speed the return of that social fabric that held us together. And I'm hearing that regularly as a concern of the members. The other concern I hear from members is the condition of the golf course. We all know that there's a renovation plan for 2023, but this is 2021. And we're experiencing now a golf course condition that, frankly, I haven't seen exist as early as it has, and be as widespread as it is in all my time here. Our greens are in spectacular shape, but our fairways are struggling mightily. And I'm hoping, and I hear members say, I hope we don't have to wait till 2023 until we get the course back in shape. So those are the two concerns I'm hearing most from members.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. Kathy, you get question number 4. What do you think of the characteristics of an effective board member?
Thanks, Larry. I think there are numerous characteristics of a good board member. I think one is an understanding of the role that a board of directors plays in a homeowners association, understanding the concept of what a board and a board member needs to be cognizant of. We are to direct, we are to oversee, we are not to manage. We have a full professional management staff that is doing that. And our job is to get the ideas from the members, the suggestions from the members to the management for implementation. I think it's very important that a board member comes to the board with an open mind, no agenda. I think that working with 8 other people and listening to the concerns that they have and the concerns that the members have brought to them, it is incredibly important. I think a good board member seriously has to commit to the time involved. It is a serious commitment. There is a lot of time involved, and we need to be able to say, yes, I'm here to do that. I think also seeking collegiality with the other board members so that the board can present a united front. Now, that doesn't mean that 9 people are always going to agree on every issue that is brought to the board. But when a majority position is taken, the collegiality of the board and the ability to say, I wasn't exactly sure that I agreed with that in all aspects, but the majority of the board voted for it, and now I am in favor of it. I think that is extremely important. And a real love for the community that you're serving. You know, I want to be here. I want to do it. I want to help.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. So that completes the first round of questions. So now let's go back through the second round. Max, we'll start with you again, and this time you get question number 2. What do you see as the biggest risk to Stonebridge as an HOA or as a country club, and how would you mitigate the risk?
Thanks, Larry. Let me preface my comments again and compliment all of the other candidates. The comments I'm going to make do not refer to the candidates that you're hearing from today. But in my experience, the biggest risk to any organization, similar country club, could be any organization, would be what I would call rogue board members. You get 2 or 3 board members who have an agenda, who want to go a different direction. All of a sudden, they've decided they know more about running the club than the general manager does. Soon the general manager struggles to make decisions. Before long, the staff is demoralized. Next thing, you have some of your best people are leaving and taking other jobs. Before the next thing is people don't go to the club anymore. Got a good friend who bought in what a very, very high-end country club in this area. One that I call where the wannabe billionaires go. And so I asked him, I said, well, how do you like your new club? Love the house, great pool, golf course is terrific. What about the club? He said, well, we got dressed up and went to the club the first Friday night, and there was nobody there. They said people don't go to our club anymore. Well, there you go, you know. So, and I've seen it in other organizations. As a matter of fact, it's happening to my home golf course as we speak. The golf course I play at home is a municipal course. We're a small town, but it's a lovely course. Pro's been there 19 years. It's managed by the mayor and the park board. They had some turnover on the park board. The only person on the park board that was a golfer moved outside the city limits, so he had to resign. Then the park board decided, well, this golf course is losing money. Well, every municipal golf course loses money. So they changed the program for the pro. They fired the superintendent. And today, February 1st, is the first day that our pro is no longer there. He resigned. This was his first day of selling cars. That's where he is now. They opened our club is, our course is closed during the month of January because it's usually under snow. But they opened 1st of February. They opened today. And a member of the park board is going to be there to sell season passes. And usually on the 1st of February, a bunch of the guys I play with, they line up, put down their $1,500 to get their season pass, because as soon as the snow's off, they're playing. I don't believe there was one person probably showed up today, you know. So rogue, there again, also rogue board members, none of which I see on this screen. So that's the biggest risk to this club and any club, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Max. Betsy, back to you again. This time, question number 3. What have you heard from Stonebridge residents as their biggest concerns about the community, and how would you address their concerns?
By far, the biggest concern right now for people is what is going on with the ad hoc committees for the golf renovation and for the facilities improvement. I hear a lot of undercurrents from members where they feel like they don't know what's going on. They're afraid we're going to get into a financial situation that is way more committed than they want. And they don't know what's going on with the golf course and moving water and all these things that are proposed for this golf course that they've been playing for 20 years and they like it the way it is, with maybe a few exceptions. And with the facilities renovation, they don't know what's going on with the rec center, what's going to happen with that, what are we going to do, the fitness center, what are we going to do with that, why are we putting in a new pool, why are we doing this, why are we doing that. They're like all over the map, and there's a lot of undercurrent of what's happening. So what we need to do is we need to get to a place, well, first of all, with the golf course renovation, people have been asked to give their input. So that was a positive step in asking, and now it's up to the golf course renovation committee to take those comments and really listen to what's being said. For the facilities improvement, we haven't been given anything yet. It's still in the budding stages of development, but it's really important that we get to a place where we can very soon tell members where we think we're going and let them know what's happening and let them have some input as to what's developing. There's concern that there's going to be one vote for both projects, and why are we doing it that way? And there's just so much uncertainty with members that that's what I see as the big problem. And the solution, I think, is really we are going to have to be better at communicating and improve communication as we go along, so that members feel like they way street and they are able to see what's going to be proposed before it's proposed, not get the proposal at the time of the vote. They need to know ahead of time what's going on with both of these projects so that they feel like they have ownership of what's going on. That That's what I see as the biggest issue right now for members.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Charlie, the next question is yours. It's question number 4. What do you think of the characteristics of an effective board member?
Uh-oh, mute.
Charlie, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I swore I wouldn't forget. I would say that integrity, honesty, and openness are self-evident characteristics, but just as important, I think that an effective board member listens more than he speaks. We have to listen carefully to one another on the board to clearly understand each other's positions and frame a reference on any action items that we're considering. I don't think a whole lot of people know this, but before my Merrill Lynch career, which I began when I was 31 years old, I was a psychologist, specifically a child psychologist, but the principles apply to adults as well. My graduate school training qualified me to be what I would describe as a professional listener. I've often said that I have a graduate degree in listening, and that has served me very well over many years. I've already said this, that it's equally important to solicit and listen carefully to member input as it is communication among board members. We're here to represent all of you, all Stonebridge members, and we can only do that if we really listen and understand how the vast majority feel about an important issue like we're facing right now. Quite a bit of what we vote on at board meetings is really pretty easy. I'll stop short of saying no-brainers, but not controversial, mostly common sense. But when we are faced with critical issues that shape Stonebridge's future, like we are right now, member input is vital if the board members are to be effective. Another key to effectiveness is approaching the job without an agenda. A couple of my fellow candidates have touched on that. We've seen in the past what happens when board members come with an agenda, especially if it's a hidden agenda. It usually results in divisiveness, conflict, and poor decision-making. So I come to this, as I think all of these candidates do, without an agenda, with an open mind and a willingness to listen and work with members.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Dan, back to you with question number 5. Your relevant experience includes having served on the Stonebridge Board of Directors. If elected to serve again on the board, what would you do differently?
It was very difficult for me to answer this question because I was very proud of my prior service on the board and very tempted to say I wouldn't do anything differently. But these are different times, and I believe that Stonebridge and the board are facing different issues than we were facing back then. In terms of my experience, as most of you know, and I don't know if our audience knows, I was president of the board. I served on almost every committee. Technically, as president, I was on every committee. Charlie just had an accident there. Okay. The time I was on the board, we were really focused on governance issues. We were trying to get the board back to where it could govern appropriately and let our management team do their work. We did get back there, but this time on the board, it's going to be a time of very, very serious decision making. We're going to have to look at proposals and ideas and assess them in terms of what is best for member satisfaction and what is best for member finances. Because member satisfaction is great, but it's not great if members can't afford what we're doing. So I think my service on the board in the next 3 years, I'm hopeful, because I don't believe that any of the people who are currently on the board and any of the people who are running for the board are a risk of becoming a rogue board member. I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about governance issues. I think we're going to have to worry about listening and hearing what our members have to say and making some critical decisions that involve substantial amounts of money and that involve member satisfaction to a very, very high degree. So what I would do differently is focus on those issues, the ones that Betsy just talked about, because that has to be our focus for the next 3 years.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And Kathy, you're going to get question 1. What do you consider one or two most important future needs of Stonebridge and why?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to continue to do is be cognizant of and assess the trends in retirement communities like ours, in golf course communities like ours, and what the next iteration of buyers are seeking, while always remaining aware of the physical and financial challenges that our current members might be facing. Again, I agree with everything that has been said so far. We have to use our ears and mouth in the amount that we have. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them accordingly. We know that our footprint at Stonebridge is restrictive, but we have to utilize the space we have in the most efficient ways to best take advantage of our beautiful surroundings and our ideal location. So we have a lot to offer new buyers. We have a lot to offer new buyers, but we have to present it in the best way that we possibly can and with upgrades that all people can be proud of. Remaining financially stable requires that we have full ownership, and our personal property needs to also be one that is attractive to new buyers. You know, the ARC and the Community Standards Committee is doing a terrific job of keeping the exteriors of our facilities, both the clubhouse facilities and our home facilities, in great shape. But we've also been told by realtors that comparable sales prices in Stonebridge that are low because interiors have failed to be upgraded bring other sales down, and it is an issue that we must deal with. So, you know, we have 25-year-old homes. They need to be upgraded as well. So I think in, you know, coordination, homeowners, board, members in general, we keep Stonebridge as beautiful as it has always been. I think it is a future need as well as a current need. And by taking on the facilities upgrades, let's not forget about keeping our individual homes upgraded as well.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. That completes the second round. Before we start the third round, I just want to remind members that if you have a question, you can go online and click on the question function on the control panel and type in your question and hit send. When we finish this third round of questions, we'll go to member questions. Yeah, there's the question. There's the chart right there. Just type in your question where it's indicated and click on send, and we'll save all those questions up until we're done with this next round of questions. Thank you, Ben. Okay, Max, question to you, number 3. What have you heard from Stonebridge residents as the biggest concern about the community, and how would you address their concern?
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, when I read that question, it brought to mind the commercial you see on TV, the guy that's trying to, I think it's Progressive Insurance. The guy's trying to teach these young people how not to become their parents.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes we need people to teach us not how to become our parents. I brought that to mind. We have, within the last year, within Middleburg, 2 young families we were welcoming that purchased condos in there. And I had a nice visit with the one couple. These kids are not even 40 years old, which is kind of unheard of in Stonebridge. But they were expressing to me, well, I went to the driving range. Somebody said, well, you can't wear that here. Then I went to the fitness center, and they thought, well, no, this machine's for members only. Well, assuming they were somebody's kid, and then they went to the dining room. Well, maybe they didn't quite fit in. So I'm concerned that maybe, and one way to address that is maybe new people. We should have some kind of a mentoring program where they can attach themselves to someone for a few days to kind of learn the ropes. And let's not get too hung up on all the rules. We need rules, but we don't have to preach them to our newest. Rather, we had the other couple bought their place almost a year ago. COVID comes along. They were afraid to fly. Finally, at Christmas time, they wanted to bring their family, also bring grandma with them. So they rented a big van in Cincinnati, drive down here. Well, they're unpacking the van, and here comes security. Somebody had called security, said, you can't park a van like that in your driveway. Well, they could park that van in that driveway. I had to get involved in that one. It was a big van, but let's don't welcome people with all of our rules. So I guess I just would like to reach out to people to say, hey, if there's somebody new in your community, remember the old welcome wagon thing. Let's make them feel at home. Just one more story. When I was just in northern Indiana, I went to Purdue. Purdue and Notre Dame used to play football until Notre Dame got tired of us beating them, so they wouldn't schedule. That's another story. But I either in college or maybe just out, a bunch of us guys get tickets, so we go to Notre Dame, go up into the stadium, go to the aisle, and I think one of my buddies had on a shirt that says Notre Dame sucks, and the other guy had on, we were there to create mayhem for Notre Dame. And the usher looks us right in the eye and he said, gentlemen, welcome to Notre Dame. We're so glad you're here. And I thought, hey, we came to create mayhem, but he's saying, we love you. Welcome to Notre Dame. Maybe that's why Notre Dame's who Notre Dame is. One other instance. We bought here in 2005. For the 35 years prior to that, I had played very little golf. I had worked, raised 3 kids, gone to board meetings, but I didn't have much time for golf. But I wanted to be a golfer. So the first time I ever made a tee time at Stonebridge, I was so nervous. It was back when we did the shotgun thing. So I come down in the morning. I don't know where to go. I don't know anything. I don't know anybody. And so I'm walking up from the parking lot and I don't know where to go. Jason looks at me and said, hello, Mr. Borden, welcome. And I have no idea to this day how he knew my name. But I love that. I still love that about Stonebridge. We come here with my brother and sister-in-law who they're at Pelican Sound. We walk in the dining room. Hello, Mrs. Borden. Hello, Mr. Borden. They don't find that where they come from. And we just got to remember to do that kind of stuff because that's what made Stonebridge special to me, still makes it special. And hey, let's be more like Notre Dame. I love you guys. All right.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but thank you. Thank you. Max. Betsy, question number 4. What do you think of the characteristics of an effective board member?
Before I get into that, Max, thanks for your great stories. And I really agree with you about welcoming. Whenever I update the Brayburn neighborhood directory, and whenever I see there's been a turnover, I really try to make a point of finding the new family members and introducing myself and making sure they kind of feel acclimated in whatever way I can at that particular moment. And I think it's a really important thing to do. And I think that's one of the things that makes Stonebridge so special, because we really are, as a community, a very welcoming community. And yeah, nobody should have called the security on them with the van. Anyway, what do I think makes a good board member? Primarily communicating and listening. Like Charlie said, being a good listener is really important as a board member, because if people know that you're on the board, they want to tell you what's on their mind. And if you can listen and maybe help bring some sort of clarity to an issue maybe, or if not, find out some answers or direct them to the right answer or solve a problem, I think that's a really important part of being a good board member. And the other part is really don't have an agenda, because if you have an agenda, what's the point? You got a chip on your shoulder and you're not going to be effective. So that's probably it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Charlie, you get question number 5. Your relevant experience includes having served on the Stonebridge Board of Directors. If elected to serve again on the board, what would you do differently?
That's probably the toughest question out of this list. But I decided to focus on my role as a committee chair. I'll focus on the grounds, facilities, and security, again, because that's where I think I had the greatest impact. I have always encouraged members to be what I call my eyes and ears. That committee has 10 members on it. It's a big committee. And I encourage them to bring any issues they find around Stonebridge, whether it has to do with landscaping or the buildings or security, bring them to me. And that really shapes the agendas that I put together for the meetings, in addition to things that Tim and I discuss. I can't see everything myself, and I've called on them and relied on their input all the time. But there have been committee members who don't speak up at meetings or don't come to me beforehand with issues and things that they've noticed. So if I had to do differently, I would and will make a greater effort to draw those members out and better solicit their input. The second thing that I learned was to use subcommittees effectively or major projects, such as the things I listed: carpet replacement, entrance renovation, the pool furniture. Again, it's a big committee, and sometimes it gets unwieldy when you're dealing with aesthetic issues. Everybody has an opinion. So I work with the subcommittee on the nitty-gritty of the selection of materials, for example, and then once the subcommittee has nailed down what they think are the best options, we bring it to the full committee for consideration. If I had it to do over, I would have started that sooner, because I learned how effective it was.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlie. Dan, question number 1. What do you consider to be the 1 or 2 most important future needs of Stonebridge, and why?
I think the most important future need of Stonebridge is to stay true to Stonebridge in terms of its vision and its mission. I think that driving into this community is always a pleasure. It always looks good. It looks clean. It looks neat. Our facilities, but for the golf course condition right now, are always in very fine shape. I think that the most important future need is to keep Stonebridge in that shape, is to keep things up to date, keep things as current as we can afford to keep them. I think we have great facilities. I think we have a great golf course. If the grass grew better than it grows right now, I think that we have excellent dining facilities that can be tweaked to make some significant improvements with very little effort and very little expense. And I think we have great tennis facilities. The fitness facility could be larger, there's no question, but I rarely find it crowded. So I think we need to make sure that it's up to date with equipment and clean and safe for an environment. So the most important future need, I think, is keep doing what we're doing and keep doing it well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And Kathy, question number 2, what do you see as the biggest risk to Stonebridge as an HOA or as a country club, and how should the risk be mitigated?
Well, overall, Larry, I would think that the biggest risk, besides the things that we've already talked about, the risk of not being up to date, the risk of not being attractive to new buyers, the risk of losing our vision and mission as Stonebridge, as Dan said, to be the most friendly country club in Southwest Florida is what our mission is, and there is a risk of us losing that. However, if you talk about financial risk, which is kind of what I thought this question was related to, then I would say unplanned financial needs would be a great risk. And we have seen that through a pandemic and through hurricanes. Those are things that we don't plan for. I shouldn't say we don't plan for. Those are things that we don't expect. And when they have occurred in the past, both this pandemic, COVID, and both Hurricane Wilma and Hurricane Irma, I thought our management response has been outstanding. Outstanding. They have, after Hurricane Irma, the job that our grounds people did, Mark Metzger and his people were here the very next morning with chainsaws in hand, cutting up the trees that were blocking the thoroughfares. They've done an outstanding job. And so to mitigate future risk, I would say make sure that we memorialize the processes used during these periods that have taken place in the past, and that would be the best risk mitigation of all. Learn what we have done well in order to create an environment that is both safe, secure, and has reduced the amount of financial issues that the pandemic and the hurricanes could have possibly occurred. I would say kudos and a heartfelt thanks to Tim and the staff for having dealt with these unplanned financial needs and have done it well, and continue to keep our eye on the ball. We have a risk mitigation fund that takes care of risks of homeowners going into default, which happened 10, 12, 15 years ago. Hopefully that won't happen again. But financial risk is something that we need to be cognizant of, and to memorialize, like I said, the processes used during this pandemic and post hurricane would go a long way for mitigating future risk.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, and thank you to all 5 of the candidates. Now I'm going to ask Ben if there are any questions from the members. This is, again, how to ask a question if you have one. Do we have any questions, Ben?
Yes, we do have several questions in the queue.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the first one is addressed to each candidate. Where does each candidate stand on a simple renovation of the golf course as opposed to a costly redesign? This is from Andrea Kent.
Max, let me start. We'll go alphabetical as we have. Max, start with you.
I'm in favor of making improvements to the golf course. I have yet to determine the extent of those improvements. I'm looking forward to learning more about what the input has been from the membership, but I want to see something done with the golf course. It may not be Kip Schulte's original plan, but I'm in favor of a plan.
Betsy?
I think Max put it pretty well. We have to wait and see what the member comments are. That there have been, I heard the other day at the golf meeting, I think about 100 already had been submitted, so that's a fair amount of comment. No matter what, there's going to be a major golf course renovation, and it's going to be expensive. How far we go beyond what the original scope is and make it more playable in some areas, or help reduce the wear and tear on the fairways that Dan is talking about and how it's really taken a toll on the course. That's going to have to come out of the meetings that are coming up after the comments are gathered and digested by the committee, the ad hoc committee. So I definitely think this is an opportunity to make some changes to the beyond the basic scope, changes to the golf course, and we should do what's within our budget restrictions to make it better.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Charlie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I continue to hear a lot of unsolicited input from members about the golf course renovation. Everyone that I've talked to seems to agree that work needs to be done. There's no question about that. What I'm hearing is some widespread reticence about moving water, for one thing. I'm not part of the golf course renovation ad hoc committee, but I'm aware of the tremendous amount of time and effort and attention that the committee is putting into this. And I'm sure that they're hearing the same concerns as I am, the ad hoc committee, and that they'll take that in consideration when they develop a proposed plan to bring to members. As I said earlier, we have to balance what we need and want to do against member resources. And that's sort of a common sense thing, but it's also, we've been told by members how much they're willing to spend. Almost 3/4 of them have indicated that a specific number. So we have a framework there to work within, and as long as we do a common sense approach to this, I think the majority of members will be satisfied. That's my hope.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Dan, your thoughts?
I fear that we put the cart before the horse with the Kip Schulte's presentation nearly 1 year ago, which got everybody excited and enthused and really was a wonderful plan. There's no question. But I understand that as recently as last week, Mark put together an estimate on the basics, which would include ameliorating the soil conditions, tearing up all the tees, the fairways, the greens, repairing bunkers, replacing bulkheads and bridges. And that estimate was $3.2 million. That doesn't leave a lot of room for much else. And in my opinion, we need to address the conditions of the golf course as it's presently laid out and designed first and foremost to make it playable. Then if there's money available, we should look at some, what I call the nice to do things that we might want to do to aid member enjoyment of the golf course. But I'm a little bit concerned that we need to approach this from a direction of the need to do first, and then come back and see how much money we have left to do the nice to do. That's my position.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Kathy, your thoughts? Kathy, we can't hear you.
Now, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I too am in favor of doing a renovation to the golf course. I think the first and foremost thing is to get rid of the existing fairways, replant them, new sod, everything that is necessary to help to keep our fairways in better condition, even under the extreme amount of play that our course gets. Again, the plan that was laid out by Kip Schulte's was based upon member input. We're 48 people, 48 members who went and had focus groups And Kip said, what would you like to see on your course? It wasn't his idea. It was what the members said they wanted. So yes, I'm in favor of doing a renovation to the course. Am I in favor of moving water around for the specific reason of creating fairer play from the number 1 tees? No, I'm not, because play from the number 1 tees is minimal at best. So I think that we are going to get plenty of member input. The Golf Committee, as one of the other members here said, has worked tirelessly in order to get that input from the members, and it's now up to the members to let the committee know. I'm sure that at some point in time we will come up with a plan, as Dan suggested, of the things that must be done and to the things that we want to have done. That we'll come up with it. It'll come up with it, and nobody is going to spend $7 million or $8 million because we don't have that kind of money to spend. We'll come up with a plan, and hopefully, like I've said before, with member input, it'll be a plan that people can get excited about and support.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And just thank you, Andrea, for the question. Just point out that this morning, the Golf Committee sent out a reminder to complete your golf course renovation member input. So if you have any input, there's a reminder email went out this morning to provide your input to it. Okay, Ben, next question.
All right, and a follow-up from Andrea Kent. If you want more people to use the grill room, why expand the bistro? More people will stay there because of the atmosphere and menu.
Let's work backwards on this one. Kathy, you want us to take that to start with?
Okay. In my mind, come up to the dining room on Friday night and tell me that our members do not want to maintain a quote unquote fine dining atmosphere. Do we want to be casual? Sure, we want to be casual. After I play golf or on an evening when I don't feel like cooking and I can go up to the bistro, it's terrific. But I don't want, in my mind, to think that the majority of our members are distressed, upset, unhappy with what goes on in our dining room on the nights that we serve meals in the dining room. This is not a good indication this year due to the pandemic, but I am certainly thinking that if we want to do any kind of an expansion upstairs, open up those doors in the bar, perhaps create a bar, not a sports bar, but a bar that would not have people dining in the bar, because that is disruptive to people dining. Do we need to support both venues? I think we need to support both venues. And I think that member input on that, again, is very important. But I have heard from numerous members that have said, do not take away our ability to put on a nice outfit and go out to dinner on Friday night in an atmosphere that is conducive to fine dining.
Okay, great. Thanks. Dan, your thoughts?
First of all, I want to note that I unmuted myself, so I'm personally impressed.
That's step one. Right, thank you.
There you go.
Two steps.
Okay. I don't look at these as competing venues. I look at the bistro as woefully inadequate. But that's a pleasant surprise. I think it was a pleasant surprise to the people who redesigned the whole clubhouse. And it's also a function of changing trends that are happening out there. So, do I think we should expand the bistro? Absolutely. I think expanding at least to the edge of the veranda with air-conditioned space is a no-brainer. It's absolutely necessary. Does it make sense to add some kind of octagonal bar that's out there and attracting people? It probably does, because if you expand the bistro and add seating, you're going to need to expand the kitchen, so you're going to need to move the bar out anyway. So, yes, I think it's important to do that. Now, does that mean that we're eliminating upstairs in the grill room? I don't think so. years ago, 2 years ago, in the Master Site Plan Committee, I was trying to push to get Nana doors. By the way, that's what those doors in the bistro that open all the way up. So you open it up to the outside. They're called Nana doors. For a long time, I thought they were banana doors, but they're Nana doors. And I think if we could open up the upstairs dining, whether you call it grill room or fine dining, to the veranda, even after the pandemic, we would have a full veranda the way we have the full veranda now, and it would be a wonderful place to dine, whether it's fine dining, pub dining, whatever. But you would have options up there to modify different plans and have different kind of dinner service, and I think you could maintain both venues very appropriately and very successfully.
Thank you, Dan. Charlie, your thoughts on the grill room versus the bistro?
Yep, I agree completely with Dan that they are not competing spaces. One of the things that we've gotten away from is the volume of dining traffic that we have in season. We don't have that right now because of this pandemic, but I don't see them as competing spaces at all. For me personally, when it's dinner time, I want dinner. I want a full dinner. I don't want a fish sandwich, or I want a meal. And that's not available in the bistro. People love the bistro. There's huge demand for it. But I think there's also great demand upstairs as well. We're just not seeing it right now. So I think that, and Dan and I talked about this recently about redoing those doors and opening up to the veranda. We're finally using the veranda. That's one of the benefits from COVID, is we're actually using it and people like it. But if we can open up that space so that it becomes indoor, outdoor, I think it'll be very popular.
Thanks, Charlie. Betsy, your thoughts?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on this one. First of all, I agree with Kathy, Dan, and Charlie. You both said it very well in your own way, and I agree with all of them. These are not the same spaces for dining. If you remember, before we had our clubhouse renovation, we had no bistro. We had a tiny little halfway house room, right? So with the clubhouse renovation, we had a new bistro. What did we find out? People love the bistro. They like that casual atmosphere, and they go there and they support it. You know what else we found out? We have an upstairs dining room that is used much more than you are giving it credit for, whoever asked that question. Friday nights, it's a full house. Saturday nights, we have the pub room. It's very popular, and the bistro's going on at the same time. People have a choice. They like having a choice. They have different menus. People like having different menus. What are we doing on Tuesdays? What are we doing on Wednesdays? What are we doing on Saturday nights when we have special events? Okay, two for Tuesday is a very, very popular event every Tuesday. Wednesdays, when we could, we had full houses there for trivia, for bingo, for whatever special event was going on a Wednesday. So to say that you build a big bistro and we will need the upstairs dining room is a total falsehood. So anybody who thinks that is wrong. We've got the numbers to prove it. Anybody that goes to those events knows how popular they are. So please don't think if we build a bistro, we will not be using our upstairs dining room. Using it. We need people for options at different points during a week, and everybody should be able to find what and where they want to dine comfortably. If you choose the bistro, good for you. Glad you have a place to go. I also choose to go to fine dining every Friday night. That's my choice, and I know it's full. So I'm pretty heated about this because I don't like misinformation being spread about the upstairs grill room. We heard this years ago. It's not true, and it's a very popular place. Both spaces are very necessary for this club. And we need a bigger bistro because we have found out that with our small bistro, what did we not have? We don't have a bar down there for people to congregate around. We don't have enough dining under air for when it's warm. We don't have enough space to accommodate people on any given night at the bistro. We will find the space to build it, and it will be separate from what we have now because there's no way they're going to be able to accommodate anything near in the existing structure. That's what this new facilities improvement ad hoc committee is working on with an architect and using what members have requested to guide them. So I think in the end, we're going to get to a plan that will work, and it will include a bigger bistro, and it will not mean we're taking away from our upstairs dining. I'm off my soapbox.
Thank you, Betsy. Max?
Yeah, what she said.
I'm not sure I'm as passionate about this as Betsy, but I love you, Betsy. You're you're great.
I'm
My only-
opinionated.
My only comment would be, I think there probably needs to be expansion to the bistro, but I would want to balance the indoor-outdoor ratio maybe a little later this year, or anyway, post-pandemic. You know, I don't know that we will ever fly on an airplane again without a mask on. And a year ago today, if you'd have been on an airplane and somebody had a mask on, you'd have thought, well, that's some germaphobe. I don't want to sit beside him. And now our whole world has changed. And will we all want to pack into an indoor dining facility a year from now? I don't know. I hope so. But I think our habits may have changed. One of my biggest disappointments when we redid this dining room, and I'm looking at it now because I'm in the dining room, was nobody used the veranda. I thought, how disappointing. A beautiful venue, hardly anybody used it. Now you can't get a seat on the veranda, and that's just simply things that have changed because of COVID. So I would hate to make a decision on the finalized plans until we know what kind of lifestyle we're going to live when we dine for the next few years.
Okay, thanks, Max. Ben, do you have another question? I think we probably get time for one more. How many more do you have?
I've got several more, about 4 more questions, I think.
All right, well, let's see if we can limit how many people are going to answer these questions. We'll toss them up and see what's the next question.
Okay. Next question is from Eunice Sherman. And the question is, based on space constraints here, some of the changes that have been proposed may infringe on the view and green space of some owners. How would you deal with these owners?
Okay, let's let 2 people answer that question. Who wants to answer that question? Dan and anyone else? All right, Dan, go ahead and answer the question.
I think we have to be very, very sensitive to the property interests of our owners. We bought here, many of us, based on the view. I know we bought based on the view and our proximity to the clubhouse. So that's why I favor a limited approach to the golf course changes and a very limited approach in terms of moving water around and changing a water view to a non-water view and vice versa. I don't think we should be going there. I think it's something we should do our best to avoid. I just think we need to be very, very sensitive to that issue and try and avoid any impingement on those members who bought their places for their view and paid a value for that.
Charlie?
Well, I don't think I could have said it much better than Dan just did. We can't mess with people's property values, and you start taking away their view, you're messing with the value of their property, you're messing with their enjoyment of the property, and I don't think we should go there. I agree. We need to keep this limited. If there are unavoidable changes, that's going to take a lot of communication, but I don't think there are any unavoidable changes that need to be made. So I wouldn't be in favor of impinging on anybody's views.
Okay, good, thank you. Ben, do you have another question?
Yes, and this will be a quick one for everybody. It's a yes or no. This is from Larry Linderer, and he asks, would you consider a two-phased plan with a vote on golf and later a second vote on facilities as far as the renovation planning goes?
Kathy?
I would say no. I believe that this plan should be put together as it is now. And I believe that the financial ramifications need to be bundled so that we know what we have going forward.
Dan?
I would say there's nothing that I wouldn't consider in terms of how we go forward. So my answer would be yes, I would consider it. Would I agree to it? I can't answer that now, but I would certainly consider it.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
My answer is yes. I would consider it too.
Betsy?
Yes, but like Kathy said, the whole thing really is one big package for the financial piece. So we have to keep that in mind, but we can examine each piece separately if need be.
Max?
I kind of like the way Dan put it. Yes, I would consider it. Would I vote for it? I don't know. You know, I'm not as close to this issue as some of the other folks. I've been hanging out in Middleburg most of the time, but I certainly would consider it.
Okay, thank you. Ben, another question?
Sure, yeah, we have another one from Eunice Sherman. So since one of our greatest needs is space, over the past 10 months, many staff have worked from home quite successfully. How would you feel about having some of these staff members continue to work from home and coming into a shared office on a regularly communicated schedule and repurpose the office space for other uses? Or utilize the maintenance area for offices for finance, accounting, etc.
Anybody want to answer? Let's give one answer to that question. Betsy?
I don't think there's room over at maintenance to be putting people in an office situation. And at this point, after the initial close down of the clubhouse, all of our employees have been back on the campus. So I don't see how that would work. And plus, if you have an office space, you can't exactly ask people to come in and start playing cards in your office space, if that's where we're going with this. That's just not really appropriate because there's things that are confidential or involved with their business. So I don't think that would work.
Okay, Ben, another question?
Okay, yeah, last question. This is from Peter Flato. And this question is to anyone. Do you feel the committee system is working? Could it be made better?
Who would like to answer that question? Kathy? Or?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I on? Okay. I think the committee system works very well. I've been integrally involved with the committee system for the last 15 years. I think it serves as a conduit of member interest that filters up to the board and to management. You know, I would, and I don't know how to get this to happen. I would certainly like the committee system to attract more people. You know, a lot of people, faces you see are the same. I would like for the committee system to attract more people, and that, I believe, can come from board members. You know, we put out the Give Back to Stonebridge, but that doesn't mean a committee chairman on that is appointed by the president of the board could not also go out and actively solicit people who have not been involved in the past. I think there are many, many people in any organization that are willing to be a part of a committee or an organization. They're waiting to be asked. They're waiting to be asked. And so maybe our committee structure could be better if we filtered out more among people who might be on the sidelines waiting to be asked.
Dan, I think you indicated you might want to answer that question also.
I think Kathy I think maybe alluding to the fact that we don't have enough turnover in committees, and that's true. Term limits on committees is certainly something we should consider. The other thing is the committee system is invaluable as a form system for the people who will ultimately run for this office to be on the board, to see how people work in a collegial system. And the last thing I want to say is we spent a lot of time when I was on the board defining the roles of the committees. I think the committee system works very well when people stay in their lanes and use the committees for the purposes intended. That's essential, and we need to stay focused on that.
Okay, thank you for the questions for the members. 1 minute wrap-ups. We'll take a reverse order. Kathy?
Oh, okay. You know, all I can say is I'm willing to serve. I'll tell you a real quick story. My father was the mayor of the city of St. Louis from 1971 until 1975. It was a time during which there was much civil unrest in most of the major cities across the United States. He had been the assessor of the city and then the controller of the city for 12 years when he decided to run for mayor. And he was asked, John, why do you want to be the mayor? And he simply responded, maybe I can make a difference. And so I say to you, if you choose to elect me to the board of directors, maybe I can make a difference. He did make a difference, and I would certainly like to follow in his footsteps. And thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Dan?
I'm not only willing to serve, I'm anxious to serve. Nobody had to come knocking on my door to get me to run. I had decided a while ago. I retired at the end of 2019, and I decided I wanted to come back to the board. When I saw what was developing in terms of these ambitious projects that were being outlined, my enthusiasm only grew. I believe that I can provide some sound thinking. I believe that I can protect the interests of our members, and I believe that I can do a good job and serve all of the community if I'm elected to the board again. So I do ask for your support. I would welcome your support, and I would certainly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Charlie?
No matter which order you take us in, I'm third.
Yeah.
Susan and I have lived in a lot of different places over the last 46 years. In fact, we're in our 10th house. In all of those places, I have found a way to give back, whether it was serving a 3-year term on the local school board when I was in my 20s, or serving as the chairman of the pool committee in a 55 and older community where we lived. I think it's a test of a good board member to really approach this with enthusiasm. I have thoroughly enjoyed the last 3 years serving on the board. It's had its moments, of course, it always will, but it's something I have enjoyed, giving back and helping to make a difference. One other thing, I give Dan Graziano a lot of credit for when he was president, and he brought the proposition back in line that The board makes policy, managers manage, and members enjoy. And that wasn't the case before that. And that's the way it should be. I hope to see it stay that way. I hope to contribute to making wise decisions about the capital improvements that we're talking about right now. And I hope to see the majority of members embrace the board's recommendations when we get there. I hope to continue keeping our grounds and facilities and our security capabilities up to date. And most of all, I hope to serve every member the way you'd expect me to serve. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Betsy?
Whew, there's been a lot of talk here today, and I think we do have 5 great candidates. So no matter who does get elected, it's going to be a good board. I'd like to continue serving. I feel like I've had a starting point with this process, and it would be nice to see it through. It's really important that we get it right, because this is going to shape the future of Stonebridge. This is a really big jump that we're doing right now, and it's going to make a big difference, especially I'm talking about the facilities improvement part. The golf course renovation is going to take place no matter what, but the facilities improvement is really going to change how we use our club and how new people see our club when they come to buy. It's really important that for a 25-year-old community that we look to the future and we figure out where we need to go and what we need to make better, and provide the amenities that members have indicated that they want in these focus groups and new buyers will be looking for when they come here. This is a great community. It's a very friendly, open community, and I think we have super management. We have so many good things about Stonebridge, and I'd like to just see that continue, and if I can contribute any piece of it, I would be honored to do so.
Thank you, Betsy. Max?
Serving on this board wasn't originally on my bucket list, but when we recently completed several projects within Middleburg, there's some goals that I had set for that community, and we achieved those goals. I'm proud of those. And now I think maybe there's an opportunity to they have some input at this next level. Got some experience in doing that sort of thing. When I was at school board, we built a couple of school buildings, and when I was involved with the Grissom Redevelopment Authority, we, of all things, built a prison. So I feel like I would be a good board member, and I'm asking for your support. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. The last slide, Ben. Voting begins tomorrow. Members will receive an email from our voting service provider, Vote Now. The email will include a link that will take you to the very important online proxy document. This proxy serves 2 purposes. Number 1, it allows the association to attain a quorum for the purpose of holding the annual meeting of members. And 2, it allows you to cast your vote for up to 3 candidates. 1 vote is allowed per unit. Members are encouraged to vote electronically. One of the reasons the association uses an independent voting service provider such as Vote Now is to assure members of confidentiality of their vote. The confidentiality of this year's voting will be no exception. You will also receive a paper proxy in the mail. If you vote electronically, you may discard the paper proxy. If you choose to vote using the paper proxy, follow the instructions in the notice of the annual meeting. You may also vote by telephone using the instructions in the proxy package. Accompanying both the electronic and paper ballots will be copies of each candidate's notice of intent to seek election, their relevant background, and the responses to 5 other questions posed by the committee. You may also find this material on the nominating committee's page on the Stonebridge website. All voting closes at noon on February 24th. The annual member meeting will be held online starting at 5 p.m. that same day. This concludes today's meeting of the Meet the Candidate Forum. On behalf of the nominating committee, thank you very much for participating. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ben. Thank you to the members.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Bye.